In the heart of Abia State, the peaceful village of Obohia rested between thick forest and winding red earth roads. It was a place where everyone knew each other, and tradition still worked hand in hand with modern life. The village had only recently installed its first ATM machine, right beside the community town hall. It had been commissioned with prayers, palm wine, and even a ribbon cutting by the local councillor. People called it the miracle box. But within weeks, that miracle turned into a curse. It began one Harmattan morning. Elder Anukochi, a respected palm wine tapper, was the first to report something strange. He claimed he went to the ATM before sunrise and, as he tried to withdraw money, the screen flickered, and a long, dark snake slowly emerged from the cash dispenser. It didn't attack, it only stared at him with eyes too intelligent for a mere animal. Nobody believed him. Not at first. But then more incidents followed. A young man named Ibuka ran out of the ATM booth screaming, trousers wet with fear, saying Egbibelo M. There is a snake inside the machine. By the third sighting, the elders knew it was more than coincidence. But things took a strange turn on a hot Tuesday afternoon. Madam Uju, the village market woman known for selling the sweetest mangoes, strolled up to the ATM to withdraw money. She had just punched in her PIN when she heard a soft hissing sound. Before she could react, a long, black snake slithered out of the cash dispensing slot. She screamed so loudly that even the goats behind her jumped. Within minutes, the entire square was filled with onlookers. Children climbed trees, elders held their canes tightly, and the local pastor began praying loudly, shouting, "Holy Ghost fire." The snake, seemingly unbothered, coiled itself around the machine and raised its head like it was guarding a treasure. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the snake was sent by a witch who wanted to steal people's money. Others believed it was a sign that the ATM had been possessed by a money spirit, mammon, they called it. A few even whispered that the bank was using the snake to scare villagers from taking too much money. That was when whispers began, of the Umumu Abalai, the night witches. You see, in Obohia, it was long known that certain women in the village belonged to a secret coven. They met under the Udola tree on moonless nights, flying through the air as owls, cats, and snakes. Many dismissed it as folklore. Until now. It was Mama Adeku, a well-known herbalist and the daughter of a powerful Dibia, who made the connection. "This is not an ordinary snake," she said one evening as the elders gathered by the fire. "This is a transformed spirit. One of the witches has taken serpent form and entered the ATM to torment the people." The elders called a secret meeting. They invited Dibia Iwe, an old priest feared and respected across the region. He examined the ATM and sprinkled nzu, chalk, kola nuts, and herbs around it. At midnight, he sat in front of the machine and began to chant incantations. Long before the snake appeared in the ATM, the village of Obohia had been suffering in silence. Crops were failing for no reason, cassava rotted underground, yams grew stunted, and plantains turned black before ripening. Goats gave birth to stillborn kids, and chickens laid no eggs. Children fell ill with strange fevers that no hospital could explain. Some would cry through the night, screaming of shadowy hands pressing their chests. And the worst part. Poverty gripped even the hardworking. Farmers who once sold baskets of produce came home empty. Market women found their goods turning sour within hours. Men who traveled to the city to work returned broke, their money lost or stolen in mysterious circumstances. No matter how hard anyone tried, progress was always snatched away, like wealth blowing away in the wind. The elders called it Akmuo, the hand of spirits. But deep in the heart of the village, the oldest woman, Mama Ifioma, whispered to her daughter, "These are not ordinary spirits. These are Ndiamusu, witches. They are among us, wearing the faces of neighbors and friends." What no one knew was that a coven of night witches had taken root in Obohia for decades, hiding in plain sight. They met under the Ojin tree during Kochi, the dark moon, where they stripped off their skins like clothes, smeared their bodies with oil of ojiresai, and transformed into beasts, owls, wild cats, and serpents. Their leader was known only as Ada T, a powerful woman who once loved a native doctor but turned to dark forces after betrayal. Her heart burned with vengeance, and she had gathered a group of bitter, envious women. Together, they fed on the fortunes of the village, causing barrenness, sickness, and misfortune, especially to those who were doing well. The ATM, newly installed in the town square, became their tool. Ada T, in snake form, crawled inside it one night during her astral journey. Using forbidden charms, she turned the machine into a gateway for their evil. Every time someone used it, a piece of their spiritual energy was drawn out, fuel for the witch's strength. But their reign of fear came to a head when the village finally called for Dibia Iwi, a native doctor from far-off Arachukwu, whose name was spoken in whispers. He had the gift of Igbo Offa, its spiritual seeing, and had defeated dark covens before. When he arrived, he spent 7 days in the forest, communing with the ancestors. On the 7th night, he returned with a carved staff of Iroko wood, a god of river spirit water, and 3 white cocks. At midnight, the battle began. Under a full moon, he stood before the ATM, surrounded by villagers holding palm fronds for protection. He struck the earth 3 times with his staff and shouted the names of the witches in the language of spirits. Suddenly, the ground shook, and a cold wind blew, though the night was still. From the shadows, the witches came, first as owls, then as snakes, then as old women with red eyes and forked tongues. They laughed and mocked Dibia Iwi, hissing, "You are too late. This village belongs to us now." But Dibia Iwi was prepared. He broke the first god, and fire burst into the air. The white cocks he had brought flew into the sky, transformed into spirit messengers, circling above. He chanted ancient words, calling on Amedioha, the god of justice, and Honor, the spirit of the land. The witches screamed, their skins cracking like clay pots. One by one, they tried to flee, but a spiritual net descended over the square, woven from prayer, sacrifice, and ancestral power. Adati tried to strike Dibia Iwi with her serpent tongue, but he struck her with the staff, and she was thrown to the ground, her body twisting until she returned to her human form, naked, shaking, and powerless. By dawn, the battle was over. 3 witches lay defeated, exposed in their true forms. They were bound in chains of Nzu and Oji, chalk and kola nut, and taken to the elders. The rest of the coven vanished into the forest, never to return. The ATM was purified with water from the Oji River, and a powerful charm was buried beneath it to guard against future possession. Dibia Iwi left a small gourd in the town square, saying, "If the wind ever smells of ash and blood again, break this open. I will return." And so, peace returned to Obohia. The crops began to flourish again. Children laughed. Traders counted real profits. And though the ATM continued to serve the people, no one ever used it when the moon was dark. Because in Obohia, they say, witches don't die. They only sleep. And they wake when you forget. Gasps filled the air. The truth had been uncovered. These witches had been using the ATM as a gate, a spiritual doorway to feed on fear and wealth. By entering in snake form, they cursed the machine, hoping to drain energy from villagers who relied on it. They were exiled by the elders, their names struck from village records. The ATM was washed with river water, prayers were held, and protective charms were placed on its walls. Though it returned to service, people only approached it during the day, never alone. And every time the machine beeped, some would still glance around nervously, listening for a hiss that might mean the witches had returned. And so, the legend lives on. In Obohia, never withdraw cash when the moon is dark. You may take money, but something else may take you. The end.